Hey everyone, so today I want to talk to you about some really exciting updates that CoGrader has made, and I think that you're really going to love them. Let's start off first for all of our AP teachers and other teachers as well who do DBQs or data-based questions. With this type of assignment, students are tasked with examining different documents and then responding to prompts that incorporate all the ideas from these documents. Now, with this little update, we can actually include those documents in CoGrader. So CoGrader is considering all of the documents attached as they are assessing student work. When you get to this import page, I am importing an assignment. It is a history DBQ on the progressive era reform. In here is my prompt, just a pretty typical DBQ prompt. Now, all of this is the same. This probably looks familiar to you, but down here, we have this little source document. We can upload one or more files to give the AI context when grading. Yes. So of course, ideally, I would say really mandatory, you should have whatever documents you have given students when you have given them the prompt. Those are the documents that should be uploaded here. I just had mine downloaded to my computer. So I'm going to go ahead and find these and attach them. You can see you can even add more. I just have a whole bunch of documents in one PDF, but you can go ahead and add separate documents if that's what you gave to students. Once that is uploaded, get excited. Let's stay with this history DBQ prompt here. Down here in the rubric section, you can use a CoGrader rubric, but you can also explore CoGrader's expanded and even more fabulous rubric library. So let's take a look at what is in there. So if we click on CoGrader library here, you can filter by state and curriculum. You can filter by subject. You can filter by grade. So because this is a history DBQ, I'm going to click on AP courses, and then I want to filter by social studies, and I see right here AP history DBQ. I'm going to take a look at this rubric. This looks fantastic. This is exactly the rubric that I would give to students, and I like it, so I'm going to select it. So once I ask CoGrader to go ahead and do its work, I will come over here to graded needs review. I can also just double check up here that those source documents are attached and that the rubric is the AP history DBQ rubric. So I'm going to take a look at the feedback here. Now, this is all the same. This is all familiar to you. But what I want to show you over here is the instructions for the chat. So even though this is a very serious assignment for a very serious test that students will take, I want to maybe make the feedback in Gen Alpha slang. So I am just going to click on this. I could also type it in there. I could put in specific words if I wanted to. I'm going to tell CoGrader to please put this very serious feedback into some Gen Alpha slang. You can see here your thesis is on point and totally slaps. I mean, you get it. Hopefully you've played around with this before. This is so cringy, but honestly, I have found if things are cringy, students are paying attention and they want to actually read the feedback. So let's say that I put that into the chat right there. Now this preview mode, I can decide, do I want all of the feedback for all of my students to be in Gen Alpha slang or not? Let's say that my whole class just loves the cringe. Then I'm going to go ahead and click apply. From now on, all of the comments, all of the feedback given to all of the students, there's only one student in this class, but if there were multiple, all of the feedback would be given in Gen Alpha slang. So that is one way that you can use the chat. You can also use two really cool features here. One is translate to, and then you can put in another language here that your students are going to be able to access more easily. In addition to using the chat to help your English language learners, you can also use the chat to accommodate SLD students, so students with a specific learning disability. If you use the chat to accommodate students with a learning disability, what it basically does is it just makes the vocabulary and the syntax a little bit simpler, a little bit more streamlined in the feedback. So for example, in this one, which has that accommodation, it says your thesis is clear and easy to understand. In the default version, it just says your thesis is clear and well articulated. Similarly, down here for the context, this one says you explain the background of the progressive era clearly. In the default version, it says you contextualized the progressive era clearly. So you can see it's really just changing some of that vocabulary to be a little bit more simple and direct. And this is going to be a great one that maybe you want to apply just to a few students who you know would benefit from this type of feedback. Okay, so I want to show you one other really cool thing that you can use if you are not using an AP rubric. So let's say that I had my students write an argumentative essay about which version of The Outsiders is the best, the book, the movie, or the Broadway musical. Now, I don't need any source documents here, but I will select that rubric from the library, and I am going to look at a middle school English essay. I will find one that works in Washington, where I am. So here we go. I will choose the Washington Smarter Ballast Argumentative essay, and this rubric looks pretty good to me, so I'm going to go ahead and click select. Now, down here, check out these grading parameters. This is such a cool thing that you can now modify in CoGrader. It will default to balanced, so higher scores are given only if few mistakes are made. Now, if you want it to be a little bit stricter, higher scores are given on a very rare occasion. And then tolerant, of course, is higher scores are given even if several mistakes are made. So you can go ahead and choose the level of rigor that you want CoGrader to use. Then the reading level, the feedback uses language for children between 11 and 17 years old. For example, Harry Potter. I think it's very helpful that there's that specific example there. Over here, you can make it basic. So the feedback language is still communicating the same information, but just in simpler vocabulary. Or if you have some very advanced students, you can use language that is for young adults and above. So again, an example of, like the book, A Brief History of Time. So you can choose which level you want for your students. And then do you want it to be concise, or do you want it to be more thorough? So longer and more expressive, or just super short, straight to the point? And then do you want your tone to be friendly or formal? It uses an encouraging light tone versus uses a conventional and neutral tone. So depending on the kind of feedback you want your students to have, what kind of feedback are they going to be more responsive to, you can also modify the tone. And when you are feeling good about these grading parameters, you can import and grade. All right, one more new and improved feature is the analytics function. So if you click on analytics, CoGrader is going to take a look at your class as a whole, which is incredibly helpful, especially to get that bird's eye view of how your class is doing as a whole. So this is all very normal. This is what you have seen before, but here's what is super, super cool. If you click on See Details, it will break down for you the specific students and how they did on each of the skills. So this is really helpful because it allows you to see exactly who is doing what and who's going to need a little bit more help. Those are all of the incredible updates happening here at CoGrader, and I hope that you go and check these out and try them and see how much better it makes the feedback you give your students so they are really prepared to be the best and strongest writers that they can be.